Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to speak on Clause 23 of the bill, which is around the advance payment regulations. But before I do, I would just like to address some of the comments made by Tauhinari, who's making claims about people's lives that are unjustified and just plainly incorrect. And I know for myself, having been on the unemployment benefit and having been a sole parent on the domestic purposes benefit, training at university, having the opportunity to have the training incentive allowance so that I could not spend the rest of my life working in McDonald's for a minimum wage, but actually get a tertiary education as a young woman who doesn't have any school qualifications, and like many young Māori women of that time and still, who leave school without school qualifications but nonetheless have an opportunity because they have the support that they need to be able to train, to be able to get a good qualification and therefore a good job and take care of their family. Now that is what I did. That is what thousands of sole parents do. They use the opportunity to train so that they can do better for themselves and for their families. Not that you would know that from the rhetoric of the government, of the Welfare Working Group, the very right-wing and very radical anti-beneficiary Welfare Working Group that supports the government's faith-based legislation, which of course this bill is, punishing sole parents and giving a licence to the community to denigrate sole parents, despite the fact that the Minister herself was one and understands the circumstances of women like herself, like myself, when we were younger and without and in need of support. So I want to address Clause 23, which is about the regulations relating to granting advance payments of benefits. Now, in some cases, what this regulation does is effectively require some beneficiaries on the advice of their case manager who have been considered to become too reliant on advances to be compulsorily required to seek budgeting advice. Now, advance payments of benefits are intended to meet the immediate needs of beneficiaries. The reason for it is that it recognises that many beneficiaries will have exhausted their savings, if indeed they ever had any, because of the low rates of the main benefit paid. And the fact is that since National slashed benefits in the early 90s, and I was working with beneficiaries at that time and saw the devastation that that cruelty caused, there hasn't been a significant increase in benefits. Benefits are not able to be lived on. They are insufficient for a person to care for themselves and their family. And so reliance on advance payments become more acute over time, especially because it becomes more and more difficult to manage on the meagre income that is insufficient to take care of the basic needs. So in proposing Clause 23, this government has clearly not learned from Minister Mahari from the last Labor government. Minister Mahari abolished the special benefit, which was a discretionary benefit, and gave an opportunity for case managers to consider the particular circumstances of the beneficiary who needed that extra support. It was replaced with the regulated temporary additional support allowance, which removed a level of discretion from the third-tier welfare assistance program. Now, what this government doesn't understand, and what was unfortunate about Minister Mahari's decision, was that you can't use regulation to deal with the totality of human experience, especially when you're talking about income, very low incomes, where people have ordinary lives that they have to live and simply don't have the income to support just being able to pay your power bill and pay your rent and get decent food on the table. When you take away the discretionary aspect of third-tier assistance, which is an assistance of last resort, so people are absolutely desperate when they come in for the temporary additional support, people will fall through the cracks. People who are desperately in need of a little bit of extra money to cover the very, very basics, so their power bill is not cut off in the middle of winter, so that they can heat their homes effectively, so their kids don't get sick and spend the next 3 weeks off school trying to get medicines for their kids, trying to take care of the kids, not being able to do the things that they do. They're basic stuff just to be able to get through their daily lives. It's those people who fall through the cracks because of the removal of the discretion around these benefits. They are the ones that become regularly dependent on food banks. They are the ones that get into debt, either to family members or Mr Chair, Mr Chair, Mr Chair.
King.